Hello everybody, Sean here for Sean Talks Movies, and I'm here doing an instant reaction for a movie I just saw, got out of the theater a few minutes ago after seeing Dunkirk, the new Christopher Nolan movie that is all about the evacuation from Dunkirk back in World War II. I don't know the exact timeline of when and what year and all that stuff, but it's a war movie from Christopher Nolan. It's the first time he's ever done a real life story, and basically it is all about the evacuation from Dunkirk. There are tens of thousands of men on this beach in France, and they all need to be evacuated because the German forces are closing in, and that's basically the basis of the movie. And we're getting this story told to us in non-linear fashion through a few different avenues. So we're getting kind of the storyline from the men on the beach, as well as from a civilian boat that is coming to kind of help rescue and evacuate some of the soldiers on the beach. And then we also get a side story from some of the RAF pilots who are coming in to try and alleviate some of the pressures against the men on the beach. Basically, it's all just a rescue effort to get these thousands of men off the beach and back home to England and safety and all that stuff. So that's your basic storyline there, and essentially this movie, I'm just going to start out by saying that this is a good movie. It is not Christopher Nolan's best. It's, I'm going to have to think about it a little bit longer to see where it ranks among the rest of his stuff, but it's a good movie, and it's an interesting movie in that it's doing something a little bit different than what he's done before. As I mentioned, this is the first time he's done a real life story, and if you look back at the rest of his filmography, obviously most people are going to know him for the Dark Knight trilogy, but he's also done things like Memento and The Prestige, and obviously this is also the man behind things like Inception and Interstellar. But again, the first time he's done a real life story, and I think there was a lot of hype for this movie, and it's getting great reviews, but I don't know if I can necessarily say that I am completely buying in, because as a film there's a lot of things here and there that don't necessarily work from a movie-going standpoint. Now, the biggest issue with this movie is the storytelling itself. As I mentioned before, it is told in non-linear fashion, which means that we're not getting a beginning, middle, and end type of story. It's kind of shifting the timeline around a little bit, and we're getting three sections basically that are all interweaving. And the first section is the mole, which is basically all the men on the beach and the pier waiting to be evacuated. That takes place over the course of 1 week. And this is all told in the first couple minutes of the movie, so I'm not really spoiling anything. Then we have the sea section, which is our civilian boat coming in. That takes place over the course of 1 day. And then we have the air, which is the RAF pilots, and that takes place over the course of 1 hour. And somehow Nolan was able to kind of interweave these storylines, even though the very timeline of each one is very, very long. And it kind of works, and in certain aspects I like it, because we do kind of get a sense of each individual character a little bit better. We get to spend a little bit more even amount of time with these characters than we might have had they told it linearly. But it also does kind of take away from the impact of everything that's going on, because you're constantly looking to see, how is this going to tie into something else? And it's just interesting to see a war movie told in this particular fashion, because I just don't know if it needed to be done that way, if that really makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain without having seen the movie. If you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's just a strange choice in terms of telling the storyline, and I don't know if I am 100% bought in on it. So while I like the idea of what Nolan was trying to do with the non-linear storytelling, I think that it does have some ramifications. I think that we don't necessarily get a chance to really care about any of the characters in particular. We're constantly bouncing back and forth between some of them, and you never really get a chance to invest in any individual character, and I think that it does knock the movie a little bit. Now, that being said, there are some moments that do get a little emotional, but I just think that that's kind of the situation, more so than the characters themselves. But I don't know. There's the storyline and the screenplay are the issue with this movie, and it's not bad, but it's not the choice I would have made to necessarily tell this story. It's just a way to kind of change things up, and I think it's Nolan trying to be a little bit trickier with his storylines, because we all know that he likes to tell the non-linear story and kind of the twists and the turns and things like that. So this movie does kind of throw that out there as an option, and that does kind of have a trickle-down effect to the rest of the cast as well. I think that the dialogue, there's some good little dialogue bits here and there, but for the most part, because we don't really have the time to continually care about some of these characters, then I think it affects the performances a little bit. We're getting some good performances here. We've got Cillian Murphy, Mark Rylance, Kenneth Branagh is in there. Harry Styles, obviously the one that a lot of people are talking about right now. Everybody's fine. There's nothing really amazing about any of the performances here, but it all fits within the constructs of the movie. I think the biggest pro to this movie is just the way that it was shot, and Nolan has been very good about the technical aspects of his film, and I did not see this in 70mm. I can see where people would really enjoy that. For me, my eyesight's not good enough to really warrant the change and the extra money and time to go find a theater that's playing in 70mm. It's not really going to change that much for me in terms of what I can see. However, I can understand why this would be a big draw for that type of format and screening format. So there's some really interesting stuff here. I think that some of the action sequences are really well done. And, you know, there's some really tense moments. Some of the moments where there are ships sinking and you are trapped in there with these men on board, and they are tense, and you are going to feeling that emotion and feeling that terror as these ships start going down. But some of the things that blew my mind were actually the aerial sequences. So all the stuff with the planes and the pilots and all that were incredible. And honestly, this movie has two things that I absolutely love out of films. That's aerial dogfights and Tom Hardy. And you mash them both together, and I am 100% in from the get-go. And everything, I mean, I love Tom Hardy. I've been very vocal about that on this channel as well as on the podcast itself. But it's just, it's good. I mean, the aerial battle, the aerial combat stuff is incredible, and it's just the way that some of it is shot, just kind of going with different camera angles and, you know, shooting things from different directions. You almost feel, you know, you feel very much like you were right there in the midst of the action, and it has been a while since I think we've seen some good aerial dogfights in a movie. And so this definitely brings that back and kind of brings homage to a more classic style of filmmaking with that particular aspect. So well done with the cinematography, I have to say that. I mean, you can't really knock Nolan for having the eye for the visual aspect of his films, but the storyline here just does not necessarily measure up. Nolan has never made a bad movie, and I'm not saying this is bad. This is a good movie, but there's certain things about it, I think, you know, a lot of times with Nolan's movies, people kind of get caught up in the emotion of it and kind of the twist endings. You know, like Inception, everybody loved that movie when it first came out, and then they watched it a couple more times. All right, there's a few holes here and there. Interstellar, I loved that movie when I first saw it, and after a couple more viewings, there's some holes and things here and there. And that's how I think a lot of his movies go, because he does really rely on that screenplay and that story to punch things home at the end. And I just don't know if Dunkirk really does that. And again, it's a very different movie than what he's done before. He is definitely doing something different and out of his wheelhouse a little bit, so credit to him for trying something new and doing it in a way that nobody's ever really done it before. I will say that this is definitely a war movie unlike one you've ever seen before, and in today's day and age where everything is all about kind of shoot 'em up action, this movie felt very reserved, and I think in a way there were aspects that felt very minimalist compared to things that we've seen in recent history with war movies. You're looking at things like Hacksaw Ridge last year that had over-the-top action and bloody action sequences. We have Saving Private Ryan just a couple decades ago, but it's still recent history, and that's kind of the idea of what we think of when we think of modern war movies. And this is not like that. This is a PG-13 movie, and it didn't really bother me. The only thing, I mean, there's little bits of blood here and there, but considering the situation, I thought it was a little bit strange that we're not getting more of that throughout the course of the movie, because it's a massive battle. So just some little issues there, but that's just me. I'm just nitpicking a little bit. But at the end of the day, Dunkirk is a good movie. I don't know if I could say that it's a great movie, but it's definitely worth watching. And if you guys have the time to go see this in a theater, I think that it would benefit being seen in a theater rather than on a TV at home. It's good, and I think that, you know, there's some stuff in here that is really great, but as a full overall movie, I can't really recommend this as being an amazing piece of filmmaking, but for a modern war movie, it's definitely better than some of the stuff we've gotten in recent past. It's definitely better than things like Hacksaw Ridge, and I think that we are still seeing a master filmmaker behind the camera here, but it's just strange, because it's the first time I've come out of a Christopher Nolan movie in recent history where I did not feel blown away. And I mean, that's just me, you know. I'm sure there's other people out there really loving the movie, but I unfortunately am not one of them. It's good, not great. So with that, I'm going to wrap this instant reaction up. Hope you enjoyed my thoughts on Dunkirk, and if you guys wanted to go check it out, it's going to be in theaters for quite a while. I think it won the box office this weekend. But in the meantime, make sure you guys are following all of the Sean Talks Movie stuff on all of the social media pages. There's links in the description below, and you can also go to SeanTalksMovies.com and get all of the information there. Also, be sure to check out the Patreon page. I'm going to be reworking that again for like the 18th time soon to kind of reflect some new rewards and things like that, but go check it out, because there's going to be some new stuff over there, and I'm trying to be better about posting stuff. And obviously I'm coming back with the instant reaction today, so hopefully you guys will see more of that in the near future from me. But once again, thank you guys for watching this instant reaction video of Dunkirk, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.